Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, and this is HeroQuest. This hobby can be somewhat privileged, so I try sometimes to share what I can so that others don't have to sacrifice. It's easy to watch any video on this channel and decide that I probably have a personal vendetta against your wallet. Not because I want your money, but because I want you to spend money on other things. And for the most part, that is true. Your wallet wronged me, and I will have my revenge. But doing the first impressions and deeper dives and trying to homebrew two things that don't necessarily go together at first glance, just offering that perspective to revitalize your stuff and give it a new life, that's kind of the intent behind that kind of content. It is in that vein that I want to show people a still somewhat accessible on the secondhand market, if at times overpriced, depending on your budget, legendary issue of White Dwarf number 145. Let's go to the table, which I will temporarily call the Harbinger, and take a look. Issue 145 of White Dwarf, the fabled HeroQuest and Space Crusade issue. This was published in January of 1992. It has quite a few years behind it and is obviously well loved. Going for the original price of £1.95 or $3.95. This is an absolute treasure trove of content and adverts at the time from Games Workshop. This is their quintessential magazine. The back cover gives us this beautiful army of Empire, Bretonnian, and Wood Elf troops joining forces to fight an undead horde. Just a striking scene, really selling the old world of Warhammer fantasy battles. In this video, we're going to do a full deep dive and review of Games Workshop's White Dwarf number 145, and I would like to know from everybody present if you would like to see other issue reviews as well. For anybody that needs it, here's our UPC. And with that, we will begin. This is going to be 80 pages of nostalgic goodness. Our very first page, inside cover, is a Space Marine Armies of the Imperium advert, the expansion for the game of epic battles. Unmatched, iconic, classical artwork that defined an era. Our contents page has been lightly scrawled on, but everything is perfectly readable here. The contents of this particular issue include the Golden Demon Awards 1992, Space Crusade, Renegade, the Cambridge Warhammer Day, Dragon Masters, Tyranid Army, Heavy Metal, HeroQuest, The Eyes of Chaos, and Advanced HeroQuest, The Eyes of Chaos. All of our adverts are also indexed here for anybody that needs to know, or for anybody who needs to see the faces of the people involved with this publication. Just an interesting tidbit, easy to miss, this was audited at 73,134 copies per month. I wonder if that's the number of active subscriptions or just the number of magazines of this in circulation. We have a map and addresses of all of the stores, Games Workshop stores that is, all across the UK. Can you imagine going back in time and walking into one of these stores with just like 50 bucks? You'd be able to get so many things. Games Workshop's Los Angeles grand opening weekend. This would have been really cool to go to, February 29th and March 1st of 1992. That was a leap year. First customers to the doors get free grand opening t-shirts and other giveaways while supplies last. If you buy 2 Citadel Miniatures blister packs, you can get a third of equal or lesser value free. Well, there's some real value to these store openings. We had some events planned here as well. Saturday 29th of February, the Warhammer 40k participation game, Battle of the Arena Planet. The Space Marine participation game, the Warhammer Fantasy Battle participation game, Return of the Necromancer, and a command group painting contest. We had a store opening in Chester. Is that store still there? And 6 coupons, which sadly are no longer redeemable. I wonder if the LA store is still there, if it moved since then. Our first margin artwork by Paul Bonner. We had a few other stores in the USA here, as well as Canada, College Park, Fairfax, Toronto, Vancouver, Philadelphia, Baltimore. We had a subscription special offer here. I know, it seems like a lot of fluff, but it's just stuff that I want to get through because for some people, this magazine is absolutely their childhood. The Golden Demon 92 National Citadel Miniatures Painting Championships, which took place the 18th of April, 92. Single miniature being a category, just what it says, one miniature mounted on an appropriate base, which should be no larger than 25mm square. This gives you all the details for precisely how big your models can be. Single miniature, mounted miniature, monster, command group, Warhammer 40k vehicle, Warhammer Fantasy Battle War Machine, diorama. There must be at least 2 models in the diorama, but there is no upper limit. The base size restrictions are 125mm by 100mm, with the overall height of the model, including the base, being no more than 125mm. The diorama must portray a theme or an event and this is usually best achieved with 5 or 6 miniatures at the most. The Space Marine Battle Force, Warhammer Fantasy Battle Army, and Warhammer 40k Army, all categories for the Golden Demon. In each store, there will be 10 regional winners, one from each of the 10 categories. There was a mystery prize involved. I wonder what that was. Space Crusade Renegade is a 5-part campaign for Space Crusade by Andrew Kennedy Skipton. Hermiotus, a Magos biologist of the Adeptus Mechanicus, has disappeared while working on an anti-gene that has the potential to immunize humans against infection by gene stealers. Oh my goodness, that would have been so valuable. It's suspected that in the course of his research, he accidentally became infected with the gene stealer plasm and fled in terror, as he should. Renegade is a 5-part campaign for Space Crusade which involves the Space Marine players in a desperate search to locate and capture Hermiotus. The alien player reads the following information out loud to all the Space Marine players at the start of the campaign. It's a lot of words that end in us. How amazing, we have an entire 5-part campaign published in this issue, hence the cover. Kind of a big event because the base game just has, 10 missions? So we have an additional 5 right here, increasing your mission potential by 50% just from the magazine. I'm starting to get a sense now of why White Dwarf was so revered. This is just for a board game that I happen to really like, and they constantly do this for their larger war games. So if you're a player of those war games, you could really appreciate the information therein. The mission sequence is as follows. Mission 1, find the information revealing Hermiotus' destination. Mission 2, capture the supply station before the alien cargo ship arrives. Mission 3, the road to Goranim, assaulting the supply ship. Mission 4, assault on Goranim, attacking Goranim from the supply ship. And Mission 5, penetrating the heart of Goranim and capturing Hermiotus. Between missions, the normal rules for winning and promotion apply. Occasionally there will be some additions to these depending on how each side performed in the previous mission, as is Space Crusade fare. When this happens, the options are clearly stated in the special rules. To get the most out of this campaign, it is advisable to have some extra pure strain Genestealer models, plenty of Genestealer hybrid models, some Space Marine Terminators, and 1 librarian for each Space Marine squad. Oh, I see. They're trying to sell you extra models that don't come with the game. Thank you. Thank you. I should have expected no less, even as far back as 92, especially 92. Before starting the campaign, be sure to read the campaign background to the Space Marine players, otherwise they won't understand the link between each mission properly and will not enjoy the campaign as much. We have special rules here to help simulate the cramped confines of a space station or base. In each mission, there are a number of obstacles strewn around the board. These are single square markers representing pillars, control panels, or just general furniture. The rules for these markers are as follows. Using Terminators and Librarians. Terminators are veteran Space Marines equipped with tactical dreadnought armor, constructed from heavy-gauge plasteel plating and can withstand colossal impacts and protect a Space Marine in the most hostile of environments. In this campaign, players can use Terminator squads if they wish. Players are free to use normal Space Marines if they want to, but they'll find some of the missions tough going. Players must choose at the start of the campaign whether they want to use normal Space Marines or Terminators. Once they've decided, they can't change their minds later on in the campaign. If players want to use Terminators, they must give up 4 of their equipment cards to do so. Librarians are highly accomplished Space Marine psychers, trained to use their powers in combat for devastating effect. Librarians wear a special kind of Terminator armor called an Aegis suit. 1 librarian is available for each squad. If the mission Dreadnought supplement is being used, the librarian is automatically available. The exact composition of the Space Marine squads will vary according to whether you have the mission Dreadnought supplement or not. Now that is one of the expansions I don't have, but I think the limitation here is really more so you don't have the materials? Well, you can't play the game that requires the materials kind of message. I don't think this was anything people were playing at a tournament level, so having to proxy things was probably not frowned upon. Our Space Marine librarians are as such, and now I have to have these models. Dag and nabbit, White Dwarf, why did you do this to me? All librarians have 1 life point. Vortex and object markers are here. We've got our vortex with our numbered arrows along each edge. We have the computer terminal. We have the other things that I can't tell what they are necessarily because they don't have labels, except I know we have basically the futuristic equivalent of the fallen rock tiles in HeroQuest, as well as some barrels. Stick these markers onto thin card and cut them out carefully with a sharp modeling knife or pair of scissors. A page definitely worth scanning and copying. This is Mission 1, HDAF-001, Sector Beta Magellan. Obtain alien intelligence. The blips here and their instructions are conditional depending on whether or not you have Mission Dreadnought. But at least it is very accessible if you don't have Mission Dreadnought. Here are the maps. Here are the special rules, the primary mission, and the secondary mission. Feel free to stop the video and snap a picture or otherwise go find the missions. I'm sure they're available online somewhere. The alien reinforcement tokens without Mission Dreadnought are as such, and here they are with Mission Dreadnought. Mission 2's primary mission text is here. These absolutely must be copied in some way and included with my copy of Space Crusade. Again, we have our blip instructions, which differ depending on whether or not you have Mission Dreadnought, our alien reinforcement token tables, and our primary mission and secondary mission text, as well as the map. And I am going to go ahead and show you the corresponding information for Mission 3, also the primary and secondary missions, and the blips. Everything should be fairly legible at this distance, at this resolution. Mission 3's special rules. Sorry, let's go do that this way. And there is a difference in the statistics for the androids, which are actually the Necrons. Move over to the map in order to give you a good view of what that looks like. We actually have our starting positions lined out along the edges of the boards in standard Space Crusade fashion. Our alien reinforcement tokens with and without Mission Dreadnought. Before looking at Mission 4, I want to show you this art from David Gallagher. Really cool art of the Genestealers. Yeah, this is awesome. They would accept these art pieces or copies of them. They encourage you to send copies and not originals so that they could share them if they were curated with the masses in the pages of this magazine. Stunning art, definitely worth the full page inclusion here. Mission 4's primary and secondary mission text is as follows, followed by the blip conditionals. I'm realizing that the focus of the camera will probably make some of this text blurry at certain points of it being moved around or depending on how close it is to the lens. So again, if this is not usable for you in any way, shape, or form, I urge you to go find this stuff online. I am sure countless people have made countless copies of this quest/campaign information, and I'm sure that it's very legible and very easy to print off and arranged in a very intuitive and nice way so that you can play these missions with your Space Crusade game. Sounds like a dream, to be honest. Our primary mission for the final mission, and we have to capture the renegade Hermiatus at all costs. He has mutated into a form of Genestealer hybrid, and we must analyze this new threat before his knowledge of Imperial secrets can be passed on. He is known to have surrounded himself with a large Genestealer force. What a guy. How awesome of him to dedicate his life's work to making humans immune to Genestealer infection. And then, bam pow, he's like, I'll just surround myself with them, because if you can't beat them, join them. Once more with our blip conditionals, there is no other, there is a lot of other text. We'll get to that in just a second. Here's our final map for this campaign. A little bit more art. This is from Jess Goodwin. That is a name I recognize for some reason. And then we have our tables, alien reinforcement tokens with and without. The Mission 5 special rules are extensive. And again, they provide you with alternatives for whether or not you are playing with or without Mission Dreadnought. What happens to Hermiatus when he gets to 0 life points? Spoiler, he is not considered dead. The androids will now have the statistics shown here, and Hermiatus will have these statistics. We have some more art, this time from Kevin Walker. Very cool, very clean actually. This goes on to explain Space Marine Librarians. We are still in the Space Crusade section. Space Marine Librarians are highly accomplished psychers trained to use their powers in combat. Librarians wear a special kind of Terminator armor known as an Aegis suit. This is a modified psychic hood, which encases the Librarian's head and helps to deflect harmful psychic attacks. In addition to a standard storm bolter, Librarians wield deadly force weapons. These are constructed around a meticulously engineered psi-matrix, which allows the psyker to channel his energy through the weapon to devastating effect. Librarians have the following statistics. Again, and they have the psionic cards, Control, Scan, and Smite. And you might be wondering, where are these cards? Well, they're on the next page, actually. Here are some instructions for using the psychic cards. We've provided each Space Marine player with 12 cards to represent just a few of a librarian's different psychic abilities. The cards are arranged into 4 suits: the psionic suit, the power suit, the kinesis suit, and the temporal suit. They are all color-coded. At the start of each game, Space Marine players who have a librarian in their squad can select 4 psychic cards from this 12. You're allowed to choose only 1 card of each color. And so we're probably going to get into the other psychic card descriptions here shortly after this page, but here are our cards. This would be an amazing thing to print out also and apply on some cardboard and get into my Space Crusade box. Yeah, this is so cool. Control, Scan, and Smite Hellfire, Lightning Art, and Vortex, and I'm really hoping that if you can't be bothered to go find these cards and scan them and you're just wanting to read lazily the text from watching the video, that this is a good enough resolution for you to be able to do so. It definitely is at the time of recording, but I don't know how the encoding and YouTube's processing are going to handle it. Blast, Jinx and Teleport, and Burst of Speed, Warp Time, and Aura. Some of these affect the entire board section. Some of them just affect one object. A model, 9 squares, 2 rooms. There's a lot of different designations for the area of effect. This goes on to explain Hellfire, Lightning Art, and Arc, and Vortex, and the Lightning Arc can hit up to 10 targets within the librarian's line of sight as long as it does not travel through more than 10 squares, starting to count from any of the squares adjacent to the librarian. Look at that. Awesome diagram. The Lightning Arc just travels from model to model until it reaches its intended final target. That is such an awesome idea for a futuristic attack, and it would be a really cool idea for a HeroQuest spell as well. This is Mark Gibbons' art. We have this Lightning Art attack actually being used. We have another set of cards. Sadly, these have been lightly scrawled upon as well in a language that I do not quite understand, perhaps that of the Genestealer or someone infected by the Genestealer gene. I guess they did 4 pages of cards. They did 3 pages of cards, but because of the three Space Marine chapters that you can play as. Gotcha. We now have some very helpful diagrams for Blast, and all 3 of these diagrams actually are for Blast. More very helpful descriptions for Jinx, Teleport, Burst of Speed, Warp Time, Aura. And then we've got a note on blips. It should be noted that Scan, Vortex, and Blast all affect blip counters in the same way they affect alien models. Now we have an amazing advert page for Space Hulk, as well as Deathwing and Genestealer, and yeah, there's just Genestealer. So you're telling me we had this modular board game that's not Advanced Space Crusade? Or no, I guess this is Space Hulk. That's what this is. And Genestealer and Deathwings are expansions. Deathwing is a Space Hulk expansion and mission generator. That sounds so cool. Why have I been missing out on that? That sounds so cool. With Deathwing, the Space Hulk mission generator, you can easily create new scenarios and board layouts. It contains 20 new board sections, solo rules, a 6-mission campaign, 20 extra plastic Citadel miniatures, and a lavishly illustrated rulebook containing full details of new Terminators and weapons, plus a 15,000-word novella by William King featuring Deathwing, the Terminators, and the Dark Angels. That's insane. Genestealer, 15 new plastic Citadel miniatures, 5 librarians, and 10 Genestealer hybrids with a choice of weapons and arms, rules and cards for a new psionic combat system, counters, and 8 large board sections, and detailed background and painting information for the Grey Knights chapter. Sounds like a really cool set of expansions to have. Space Hulk is on my list, but that's one of the more expensive games, so it'll be just a bit before I get that. We have pictures of tiny baby Mike McVeigh and tiny baby Wayne England. These are meant to be diminutive and affectionate titles, not disrespectful in any way. These are legends. These are absolute legends. You can go to Cambridge Warhammer Day, January 1992, Saturday 25th. Don't be late. Dragon Masters. By the time you read this, Dragon Masters, our new fantasy board game, should already be in the shops. Created by award-winning games designer Ian Livingstone, it's a fast-moving game of action and exploration set in the Elven Kingdoms. We've been playing the game since the prototype arrived here many months ago and haven't been able to resist designing some new exploration counters. The best of these are presented here for you to add to your own games. Amazing. We have all kinds of basically introductory rules, an explanation of how the game flows, and yeah, we have to get a good shot of this art from Christos Achilleos, a really cool wyvern and some kind of elf. I'm not sure because I'm not as in tune with the elf races of Warhammer. If that is it's a Dragon Masters, because it's not Warhammer. It doesn't matter. I can call it whatever I want. It's a stupid elf. We have tips on expanding the game. Dragon Masters has all the models you need for a 4-player game. It is possible to expand the game to allow 5 or 6 players to take part. If you have a copy of Mighty Empires, Extra Mighty Empires pieces should also be available from Games Workshop mail order. I would love to have a copy of Mighty Empires, actually. And we are going to get into the new counters very soon. Here they are, new exploration counters. I don't know about you, but I actually have a very soft spot, a very fond piece of my heart, fondness for this kind of tile. These tiles are different than the tiles that I say I dislike. These tiles are more like game pieces than they are collections of things that you accumulate, or things that you have to include in phases or steps or turns. These literally take the place of miniatures or models on a map. But enough about that. We have the Abandoned Dwarf Hold, which sounds hilarious on its face. The Bag of Gold, Bandits, Chaos Dwarfs, Dark Elves, and Skaven. Oh, okay, so you are in the Warhammer world now. The Chaos Gate, the Dragon, the Plague, the Magic Standard, the Dragon's Bane, the Dwarf King, Foul Sorcery, the Master Thief, the Dragon Orb, the Horse Thief, Natural Defenses, Sellswords, Wandering Mage, Wild Horses, Village, Old Dragon, and Sea Counters. Those were all land counters. The sea counters are Cataclysm, Maelstrom, Tornado, Treasure Island, Sea Elves, Corsairs, Drifting Hulk, Sea Fog, and Wrath of the Gods. This is basically an entire expansion worth of materials. We have the tiles here that you can absolutely remove this page from your White Dwarf and glue it to some thin card. This is letting you know to take out the page, basically, and I'm not going to do that with this, but you can absolutely do this with other magazines or other contents or things that you can print and play. This is giving you some great instructions on how to handle making these into what you need them to be. You'll take this page out, you'll cut around all the tiles, but you'll keep them as one unit and then glue them to a cardboard sheet of the same size. You will not cut them apart at this stage. You will then take this page out, cut around the land and sea tiles, and glue it to the opposite side of that. Then when that glue is completely dry, you can cut out the individual counters by carefully cutting along the lines with scissors or a sharp modeling knife, and use them in your games. Beautiful. We're not yet halfway through this entire review, although things might kind of be brisk as we just look at these model pages. We have the War Eagle and High Elf Lord. I wouldn't be caught dead with that on my table, but it does look really cool for what it is. These M36 Snotlings in groups on bases look really cool as well. Is he wielding a mushroom? Good luck with that, you dumb goblin wannabe. Marauder's new designer at this time was Colin Dixon, and he was making Snotlings like it was nobody's business. Here's how you can purchase your own Marauder miniatures if you have a time machine, which you won't be able to use your credit card back then because your number will be, never mind. Warhammer 40k Tyranids. This is an editorial on Rogue Trader, speaking about Tyranids, explaining what they are in the 41st millennium. It talks about the Tyranid hive mind, the advance of the Tyranids, and the shadow in the warp. The hive fleet is so unimaginably vast that it creates an impenetrable disturbance like a huge blocking shadow. That's the will of the hive mind itself, making them undetectable as they drift through the wharf at terrifying speeds. This artwork is by Kevin Walker. Astropaths cannot send or receive telepathic messages due to the impenetrable wall presented by the hive mind. This article continues on to explain that the hive fleet has swallowed up 1,000 imperial worlds already, and confused details of the fighting on the planets portray the Tyranids as an unstoppable force. Here's how you can use them in your Warhammer 40k games. This artwork is by Adrian Smith. Very cool. We've got some Genestealers here. Absolutely necessary for the impending Tyranid attack. Eldar and Blood Angel Space Marines join forces to fight a Tyranid horde across the ruins of a devastated colony. The paint jobs on these are really interesting. Eldar Space Forces have to, oh god. Things are bad when you have to team up with the Eldar. I'm just not a fan. I'm just not a fan of elves. I'm a fan of making fun of elves, and so I accept them so that I can make fun of them, and that's the long and short of that. The Tyranid army cards should be coming up soon. We have Tyranid Stunned and Berserk counters. This artwork is from Paul Bonnery, depicting this very terrifying Tyranid. And here they are. Are these the equivalent to the War Scrolls in current day Age of Sigmar? Hunter Slayer squads and the Tyranid battle squads. I've always thought that these guys looked rather goofy, but they are more than welcome in my Space Crusade board game. All of them, the Hunter Slayers, the battle squads. Yeah, these basically are like the War Scrolls. These give you the statistics of the Tyranid battle squads and the Hunter Slayer squads. And we go on now to get the Pure Strain Genestealer bands. Very cool, very, very cool, as well as the Zotes, the six-limbed structure of Tyranid warriors, probably an ancient and highly evolved form of bioconstruct created using the Tyranid's own genetic material.
Created as investigators, their main role being to understand and communicate with creatures outside of the hive mind, assessing their value. Incredibly interesting given their form, their horrifying physical manifestation. Here are the cards necessary to play the Zotes, as well as the Pure Strain Genestealer bands at 200 points per squad of 5 Genestealers. It goes on to explain the Genestealer Patriarch. This is a funny looking dude. He's wearing a chain and a gold medallion. Okay, that's fine. The progenitor of an entire Stealer brood. Okay, and this is the Genestealer Magus. The figurehead of the Genestealer brood, selected from amongst the hybrids, is the most human looking. Oh, okay, I guess you didn't have a whole lot to pick from, right? Depicted on the tip of his staff is the Golden Demon from Dungeons and Dragons, the pot-bellied one. Oh, there's more. I guess, just for posterity, we will continue looking at the backs of these war scrolls, such as they may be compared to. Genestealer Patriarch, Genestealer Magus. We go on to look at the Genestealer hybrids. Now this really is making me want to incorporate all of these models with all of this lore into my Space Crusade game. We also have the bands of brood brothers. They are humans which have either been implanted by Genestealers or subverted by the subtle influence of Zotes. They are devoted to the Tyranid cause and are fanatically loyal. We have a lot more to go looking at just this supplement right here, this editorial on Rogue Trader, but we will continue on looking at the Genestealer hybrids and bands of Blood Brothers rear of the cards before moving on to the Squig Swarm. This is a first for me. I actually had no idea that these monstrosities existed in this version of Warhammer. Countless billions of small creatures swarm throughout the hive fleet, performing a myriad of different functions. Some flap or crawl around the hive ships, repairing rents in the vessel's fleshy interior, or tending to their larvae of other bioconstructs. Long ago, the Tyranid started bioconstructing a range of hardy creatures from orc genetic material. When other orcs found out about this outrage, they stormed several Tyranid vessels to rescue their compatriots, only to find that they were too late, and their compatriots had been changed into strange little creatures they dubbed squigs. The orcs recognized the squids as orky, and the squigs seemed to recognize the boys. It seemed that a thread of the orky spirit still remained in the hideously changed creatures, as it was at odds with the hive mind. The orcs took back with them as many squigs as they could find, and with much evolution and adaptation, they have since become a vital part of the orc way of life. Meanwhile, the Tyranids finally succeeded in ironing out the last of the squigs' free will and turned them into their own purposes. In planetary invasions, the Tyranids are accompanied by swarms of squigs which crawl and slither across the land, consuming anything in their path. Everything is canon. This is the Screamer Killer. It's one of the larger Tyranid bioconstructs, and I see as they get bigger, they really take on more of the form of something machine-looking than they do anything biological. It is a living engine of destruction designed for use in assaults, boarding actions, and massed battles to crush enemy forces. We've only got one card left to look at, but let's take a look at the Screamer Killers and their notes, and then let's take a look at the Squig Swarm and their notes. We have actually quite a few notes on the squigs, which is just hilarious to me. It is so funny. An advert for a Games Workshop in Birmingham, moving to a bigger and better store at 116 Corporation Street, and the Mind Slave Squad, Some creatures captured by the Tyranids are not used as food or broken down for their genetic material. Instead, they become the hosts for immature grubs of various Tyranid creatures. One such creature is the Mind Slaver, a crab-like bio-device that is used to take over control over the creatures when they have been damaged or malfunction. It's awesome. They look like a squad all their own little chapter of Space Marines. It's not quite what they are, but that's what they look like. This is the back of the card for the Mind Slaves, and we move on to the next page, or at least finish this page up. This is Ed Spetig, and he's a retail manager with Games Workshop at their Croydon store. Here we are, this month's Heavy Metal, focusing on the new additions to the Eldar and Imperial fighting vehicles. Now, this is not something that's necessarily within my wheelhouse, but it is cool to see the Eldar War Walkers, the Deathstrike missile launchers, the Squadron of Hellfire flamethrowers, the Gorgon, the MK2 Predator, the Lehman Russ battle tank, which looks so puny compared to the legendary Lehman Russ. That was it for Heavy Metal. We are now at the HeroQuest portion of this magazine on page 54. This is The Eyes of Chaos by Carl Sargent. It is a quest for Milton Bradley Games' HeroQuest. Included with this quest are some new monsters and a henchman who will assist the heroes in overcoming the perils of the Tombs of the Phalanx. Those who fell battling the forces of chaos in the mountains bordering the Empire and the western land of Bretonnia are celebrated with a memorial service at their tombs, known as the Tombs of the Phalanx, each year. This time, a force of ogres ambushed and killed the mourners. Only one man survived, Pierre Chancia, and he begs the heroes to rid the tombs of the ogres who slew his friends. However, all may not be as it seems. Old rumors tell of a force of chaos magic below the tombs, latent for many years. Has it been reawoken? Surely something more intelligent than mere ogres directed their cunning and lethal ambush. Within the tombs, perhaps some of the dead have stirred with the dire magic deep below them. Who can say? The mystery is for the heroes to solve. However, they must not rob any tombs within the dungeons, for this would surely bring a powerful curse down upon them. The ogres are given a standard number of body points. If you have Milton Bradley Games against the ogre horde, you may wish to use the variable body points tracks given there instead. You will find details for Pierre in the Monsters and Characters section. The Eyes of Chaos are powerful emanations of evil magic that may affect the wizard or elf heroes during the quest. Whenever the heroes enter a room, roll a normal die. If you roll 1, 2, or 3, the wizard hero must give up one of his spell cards. If you roll a 4, the elf hero must give up one of his spell cards. And if you roll a 5 or 6, there is no special effect. If an affected wizard or elf has no spell cards left, he is unaffected. The player of the hero may choose which spell he will give up. Some Eyes of Chaos have special effects which are described for particular rooms. Eyes of Chaos appear as small, green glowing skulls floating in midair with brilliant red eyes. They disappear in a puff of smoke when they have stolen a spell from a hero. Welcome to the Outer Tombs. Here is the curse. If a hero opens a tomb trying to steal from it, he is struck by a curse and loses 1 body point permanently until the quest is completed. If he loses all his body points through curses, he immediately is turned into a zombie and is played by the evil wizard player. And here is a map for the Eyes of Chaos quest. This uses letters in place of the monster symbols, and we have a very helpful key down below telling you where there are orcs, ogres, skeleton zombies, goblins, falling blocks, chests, doors, blocked passages, pit traps, and the Eyes of Chaos, which are not in every room. They are only in 3 of the rooms for this adventure, so you're not necessarily going to be doomed. However, this isn't the only map for this mini campaign. The goblins here, by the way, are armed with crossbows. Unfortunately, they are shoddy goblin crossbows and are so badly made they can't be used by heroes. They do allow the goblins to roll 3 attack dice, however, which is no small feat for a goblin. All the wandering monsters in the upper level are goblins. Instead of stealing a spell, the Eyes of Chaos here, in room A, makes the ogres more powerful. All ogres in this room attack with 1 extra combat dice. I'm starting to see that the Eyes of Chaos could be used as a sort of buff that appears in a room, and you could even have this move around, this glowing green skull floating around, causing this buff to appear in various rooms. I like that idea a lot, actually. The heroes are allowed to draw 2 treasure cards when they open the treasure chest here. However, when they open it, a cloud of smoky gas instantaneously fills the room and each hero must roll 1 combat dice. If a hero fails to roll a shield, he loses a body point. The cloud clears just as swiftly and the heroes see a troll standing in the room ready to attack them. We don't have any details of the troll on this page, but one more look at the map for the Eyes of Chaos, the Outer Tombs that is, before we move on to the next page and the next part of this quest. This is the Deep Catacombs. Without argument, a much more complex map. This time we have the key detailing where is the Orc, Ogre, Chaos Sorcerer, Ogre Chieftain, Goblin, Eye of Chaos, Pit Trap, Blocked Passage, Door, Spear Trap, Chest, and Falling Block. Yes, we have our furniture in here as well, and those are labeled appropriately. They do not have to use single letters to stand for what the furniture is. All the wandering monsters in the lower level are orcs unless you roll 6 on a normal dice, in which they are ogres. It doesn't say to roll. I guess that implies you must roll. We have a repeat of the goblin crossbow. The ogre chieftain in this room has a glowing red sword which flashes light in the same way as the Eye of Chaos. Until he is killed, the ogre chieftain may re-roll any 1 combat dice, attack, or defense of the evil wizard player's choice from his full set of rolls. The Eye of Chaos may also steal a spell from a wizard or elf hero in the normal way. We have the entry room and a false chest trap. Back in the 90s, all kinds of people were falling for the false chest traps. The huge, ugly ogre who fights in this room is the Ogre Chieftain's trusted lieutenant. The treasure chest here allows the heroes to draw 2 treasures cards, and also allows the wizard or elf hero to take 1 spell card of his own choice because a magical scroll is among the treasures from his own set of spells. If he hasn't cast any spells yet, he doesn't get this. Lastly, the chest contains a huge brass key, which is the only way to open the door to room H. We have more notes for the storeroom, for the orc nest, and for the lair of the Chaos Sorcerer. We have some art here by Adrian Smith, a dwarf, not perhaps a slayer, and then a dwarf, perhaps a slayer, against this. Well, it looks like it looks like an ogre, but it kind of looks like it should be a spell-casting ogre, oddly enough. We have notes about the ogres, the orcs, the Chaos Sorcerer, the Eye of Chaos, the treasure chest, and the fireplace before we lead up to the exit. Now we are ready to talk about the monsters and characters in this quest. Here is the ogre and the stats for the Ogre Chieftain and the stats for him, and you can tell, yeah, they do use different models than those that come with Against the Ogre Horde, which is fun, very fun, since that game comes with named models, Ogre and Ogre Chieftain. It's all good though. We also have the troll. This is the second time that I have seen a troll referenced with picture and everything for a HeroQuest quest. May not be the last time. Pierre Chancier here, who has the attack and defense of 2 combat dice, a movement of 2 standard dice, 5 body and 3 mind, and the Chaos Sorcerer with a unique Games Workshop model here. Advanced HeroQuest includes rules for solo play. But this is an advert. This is not the next part detailing the Eyes of Chaos, but it's a very well placed advert because we are about to go into the Eyes of Chaos as an Advanced HeroQuest quest. And this is also by Carl Sargent. It's an adventure which takes place in an ancient tomb complex deep in the Vault Mountains. The 4 heroes are sent to clear out a band of ogres who were responsible for the massacre of a group of soldiers holding a remembrance service at the tombs. The one survivor of the slaughter reports that the ogres seem unusually cunning and well organized. What horrid secrets are the heroes going to discover in the catacombs under the tomb complex? This is a recreation of the HeroQuest quest, the Eyes of Chaos, but made to be adapted to Advanced HeroQuest rules and gameplay, and as such, all of the notes and details and mechanics outlined here are not going to be compatible with the basic HeroQuest game system. But that's what you would expect from 2 completely different game systems, yes, even though Advanced HeroQuest can allow you to incorporate the HeroQuest elements. Mark Gibbons created this drawing of what looks to be an elf hero against this massive ogre, and indeed there are ogres of the catacombs. Character monsters here include Johann Weishofer, Gregor Weishofer, and Great Gut, the Ogre Chieftain. I admire the ability of the creator here to create this adventure in 2 different formats and to provide you with so much more detail for the HeroQuest version of the quest. It is really, really cool to see that. We have different tables you can roll on to generate the actual passage length and features and ends. Room type table. I'm not looking closely enough to see if these are really repeated from the game system or its Terror in the Dark expansion, or if this is a completely original set of tables made for this adventure. It might be completely original. It might be very easy to make completely original tables for the game system and make them make sense. They're just perhaps remixed. We have our lower dungeon levels, and again, we have rules for the Eyes of Chaos. The eye located at the junction of 4 passages will affect all of the shaded squares. As soon as one of the heroes or henchmen enter the zone, the GM should make a roll on the table below to determine the effect of the eye. The D12 table effects include anti-magic, weakness, radiant fear, mental enfeeblement, distorted vision, magical drain, tainted power, slowing, warp attack, flame attack, magical null, or fate point null. And there are instructions for each of these results to let you know what they mean. The dungeon, lower level 1, is here. Now, as with the Space Crusade missions in this issue, I do feel strongly that it should be easy to obtain the maps and the literature for this advanced quest somewhere online. I'm not sure at the time of this video where, and it's not something that I would say is going to be linked down below. It's just not. But I think that it would be easy enough to find in this format. All of this stuff is obviously copyrighted. but I think it's very much in the spirit of classic HeroQuest and classic advanced HeroQuest, not that there's a contemporary version, at least in this yet, to share this information so that other people can benefit from it, so that they can incorporate it into their games. I would be very surprised if this just isn't in existence anywhere. I'm sure that you could go to Yoldin and find it. We have our map and our details for dungeon lower level 2. Right cheer, your dungeon, lower level 2. Brother Johann is so close to controlling the chaos flux now, and soon I shall have to strike with that damn cloak of his. I can't hope to overcome him. I have to find some way of getting one of the ogres on my side, somehow. With his magical control, it seems hopeless, but I cannot let him triumph when I, Gregor, should be the master. Whatever you say, Gregor. We have location notes J and K, talking about the lore and the mechanics of different rooms. This is an illustration by Russ Nicholson, another name I think I recognize, not sure. Very useful to have these names attached to these drawings, though. I could look up these artists later and see if any of them still exist for things like commission or licensing. We're getting close to the end of the issue now, and close to the end of the notes for the Eyes of Chaos. We had 2 maps for HeroQuest in its basic form. It looks like we just have a lot of notes for the different locations, very detailed, very full of mechanics, an actual badass illustration of one of my favorite creatures from this entire franchise, the Chaos Warrior, this time from Adrian Smith. Very sketchy, and I would guess charcoal, right? Charcoal on paper? Love that. The chaos flux is prevalent, as well as the explosion of chaos, illusion of terror, inferno of chaos, entering the flux, and arrows of chaos. Attacks from Johannes. The heroes may decide to run away from a combat, either in M or N, because life is getting too rough for them. I love that. If that happens when they return, location M will be restocked with 2 new ogres, which have been attracted to Johannes' service by the magic of his cloak. There are fate point awards, and then that is the end of Eyes of Chaos. No doubt a legendary mini-campaign for anybody who wanted to play that. I want to play it. Games Workshop mail order phone lines are opening on Saturday morning to take your calls. Make sure you reference this mail order price list when you call them to order these models. If they bring up silly contemporary terms like inflation, just point to the prices and say that there's nothing on here, rules is written about inflation, and that they need to play by the rules. New Space Marine transfers and Imperial Guard transfers. Terminators and Tyranids, Dragon Masters, and Advanced HeroQuest's paint set, all available on this next page. We're almost at the very end here. White Dwarf, page 74, detailing the different Genestealers models. All of these models, except those marked with an asterisk, are supplied with a Genestealer arm sprue and an Orc weapon sprue as standard. I loved that about the classic models, and I think a lot of the contemporary models have the exact same thing going on in the numerous starter sets and the clan army boxes that are available for Age of Sigmar, 40k, probably the Old World. I don't have any Old World products in my possession. The Tyranid Screamer Killer. You get 1 of each of the parts, so sadly, no customization there. The Hunter Slayers, which just look like xenomorphs combined with raptors, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, actually. So Michael Perry, excellent job on those sculpts. And the Citadel team designing the Stoats, which just remind me of the chaotic dragon ogres of the Old World. Not my favorite concept, but really a cool execution, which is weird. It's a reversal. Usually it's great concept, poor execution, poor concept, poor execution, but I've never seen like poor concept, great execution. That's the dragon ogres for me. Here are the Tyranids, 1 of everything, so you will always make the exact same Tyranid. The Squigs, I've already forgotten about the Squigs, and I'm so glad to be reminded. I'm going to have to look up some space Squigs. They look absolutely insane. And then the epic war machines here on the penultimate page. We get to the ogres, and we're shown the Chaos Ogre, the Pit Fighter, the Thug Ogre, the Bounty Hunter, the Gladiator, the Oriental Ogre, the Mercenary, the Bandit Ogre, and the Warlord. Before moving on to the final page inside back cover. This gives us Space Marines Epic Armies box sets for the attack force, the war horde, and the battle group. And finally, the back cover, which you've already seen. Brave heroes, thank you so much for accompanying me on this White Dwarf journey. I have now read more White Dwarf in the last 50 minutes than I have the rest of my entire life. You will have to let me know if you want me to acquire some of the other issues. Be sure to tell me which issues I should be on the lookout for if I tell you that I highly enjoyed the contents of this one, what other ones would I highly enjoy, based on your personal experience? Again, let me know, and for now, that will be all. I will see you in the next exciting adventure, brave heroes. Until next time, I bid you a fantastic rest of your journey, and onward for now.